Please, Lake Harriet, help me welcome Miss Cindi Claypatch.
Testing? Okay, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. What an introduction. I love it. Oh, wow. Well, is spring really going to be here? Yes. Let's say it. Yes. As a powerful collective, we're going to bring it in, right? Attract it? Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh. This, somebody had just spoken to me and said, Peter here had said how, last Monday was so gorgeous. And then, talk about the illusion of control, huh? Yeah, try to push the weather. So today we're going to talk about, power versus force. And I think it's just an interesting time right now in our lives of how people are using it, don't you think? And in my past, I used to have such an aversion to the word power. Is anybody else? Because to me, it equated to control, And what I loved when Eric spoke last week was he was talking about, and along with David Hawkins, is the idea of power being the formless, and then the use of force is the form, connected to I think of us as the human factor, and then taking that human factor and getting behind an idea and then creating force sometimes. And so we're innocently coming about, in this time where we're really seeing the difference between people in their alignment of energy and natural life force or power. Those are the words I think of when, connected to power these days, is that beautiful, formless energy that we're all connected to, And so then you take that energy and we are seeing different expressions of it, aren't we? And not that we don't see it every day, but right now we're seeing a lot of the contrast of it. We're seeing the force, and then we're seeing the alignment. So today I kind of want to just roll around in the ideas a little bit, and then we'll do a meditation to come back into that alignment with ourselves, and I'll try to up the frequencies too. So are you on board with me? Okay. So I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that. It's a Hawaiian folklore about the bowl of light. But the beautiful thing about this is the idea that, we come into this world with a bowl of light, and that light in their belief system it's hooked up to our higher self, So we're bringing that in. But also the higher self isn't just like an individual higher self, but that energy that is a part of all things, and that we individually have something connected to that. And then, what's interesting, and so they'll talk about that as coming in with the breath of Ha, is kind of the breath of life, or I like to think of it from the Peruvian standpoint, is the idea of the breath of the cosmos. The breath of whatever you consider your higher power, whether it's God or the cosmos or the field, it doesn't matter to me, but it's just that idea that it was given, and this is just our package. This is our carrier of it, and we've talked about that many times, and all of you know that. And then in the folklore, they go on to say that depending on your deeds or your actions, that you then can, each deed that has to do with negativity or the polarity of that light, meaning the opposite of who you truly are, that's like a stone in your bowl. And that stone in your bowl, that's not a big deal to have one or two, right? But if like how a fire burns, if the if it's too tight and no air is there, you're not going to get a very big flame. And so the same in their culture is the stones. And so they'll talk about the negative deeds that people do onto somebody else, which I consider like forcing your reality, is that there's things that you do onto other people, but to me it's also what you do onto yourself, huh? Like how many times do you just so innocently call yourself a name? Whether it's a klutz or whether it's, just anything. We just do that. And sometimes it's totally innocent and it's in a nice feeling, not a problem. But if you're in a low state of mind and you start harping on yourself, then it's like you're just putting more stones in there. Huh? And so we are going through life and we've got this bowl, and then sometimes we don't feel very bright. And in that not so bright feeling, we're also not attracting what we want. We have great intentions, but there's no force that gets through to communicate with the field about what you want. I think of in all the different scenarios in our life, and I often talk about this when I do groups, is if you have like this idea or this thought here, but you don't bring your energy through with it, then it's just a thought, huh? When you're bringing your energy through with it, the universe and people can feel that. You know how it is when you're just feeling somebody's thoughts? I have a practitioner I go to who just parrots information. He's good at what he does, but to talk, it's like I get nothing. And that's something when I'm a sensor. So I usually feel a lot, but I just feel that I just hear the education, And so that's all I hear are the thought systems. And then one day, he was a little bit more relaxed, and I felt them coming through. And so that's what we're all doing, isn't it? We're all kind of going about our lives, and we have our form, and then do we let ourselves through? Do we let that light, in the bowl come through and burn? Or do we layer it with so much stuff? And so we are living in a world where there's just so much, huh? So it's very hard sometimes to stay clear until you know how you work, Because I innocently in my youth, I was always walking around and I just was living from my head. And I was successful, got good grades, could communicate, that kind of stuff. But I wasn't real happy. I didn't feel the breath of life. I didn't feel excitement. I didn't feel vital. Oh, you've never been like that, right? Yeah, so it's like we all have those times where you're just not feeling it. And I love when I used to work in public housing and some of the kids that used to be involved in gangs, and they'd be like, Cindi, do you feel me? And I'd say, yeah, more than you know. But it's like this, where are we coming from? Are we coming from that place of our stones and our storage, or are we coming from that place of light that, comes with all of us? And that, to me, is power. So then in the folklore that they talk about is like if you're not feeling it and you're feeling like you have all this stuff, then you gotta dump it. It's just amazing. It's so much like if your windshield gets terrible and you just put on the windshield wiper. And then the drive starts to look nicer. So simple. But we've been kind of groomed or imprinted to attach to our stuff. The story, the event, and to retell, and to stay involved into the story. And so it's really innocent that no matter what your story is, when we're holding it, it's harder for something new to get through. And then when somebody has a traumatic story, then you look at how innocent it is then for that to develop into post-traumatic stress. And when it's rolling around in the mind a lot, that then it is also creating more and more neural networks around it, and then that becomes more and more real, and less is growing in your system of new ideas and ways of going about life. So it's, I was reading some stuff because of doing some work with the police, and I came across this part where I was looking into, or actually I think it was Pema Chodron, and she was talking about how if we don't allow for ourselves to have those low times, but to see them for what they are, to just allow for something to run through, if we deny it and try to contain it all the time, that then when we face somebody else in a place of emotion, we're going to try to resist it or control it, right? Because if we feel uncomfortable with it, then it's going to end up being something that we're going to not want to have mirrored up to us. Even if a person truly has a reason to feel upset. I find it like, I tend to be kind of quiet, and I'm sound sensitive, so when stuff is really loud, I'll retreat a little bit, And so that's the innocence, same thing. So if something's really loud, I'll kind of pull in. And so you imagine if you don't feel comfortable having some anger running through or some discomfort running through, that then if somebody else is in it, you're going to get tense about it or you're going to want to push it away. So when we look at mindfulness and we look at stuff, we see that formless energy is getting behind an emotion, it's get behind a behavior. It's not selective of what it gets behind. It's just going to get behind whatever we offer. And so then any of those ways in which the energy starts to express itself, we don't want to put a judgment on it. We want to just have an observation of it, huh? Because in that observation, you're just observing it and you're seeing it and you're letting it go through. So much of the time when I do that, then it no longer stores in my system. But if it's like me trying to hold my finger in a dike, it keeps building up. And then it'll come through, or I like to say it'll leak out. And so we find that we need to have the comfort in our stones sometimes, but not to live and breathe our stones. Those stones are just experiences and things that we've had going on in our life, things we've told ourselves or beliefs we've collected, but we don't want them in the way of that light. So I'm a Rumi fan, and I think this is so telling, is the moon stays bright when it doesn't avoid the night. So your nice feeling, your power is yours. It doesn't matter if there's density around you or if you have thought running through you. Is like, if you remember who you are, then you stay light regardless. Right? And I love that. I love to see it in my clients too. So I love metaphors, and if I think of water as like power, water will just take many different forms. And so you can be in the flow, or water can start to create form and it can start to be invasive. So I'm sorry that I couldn't get that picture any bigger, but that idea of it starts to crash up on the beach and then starts to move in on the houses. Well, that's what happens when people are forceful too. It's like you still have the energy, but it's just getting behind something that's creating a form of how you think something's supposed to be, and now you're going to try to have somebody else experience it. Right? Yeah. So knowing that, just knowing that that's all it is just one form of myself, is I can be in my authentic power or I could be in my form. But I certainly don't want that to encroach on other people too much, but I know I do it. And then when you're in tough situations where people have real different beliefs than you, or maybe really erratic behavior too, then it's like so important to know that beyond that form that they're presenting is still that beautiful power, that beautiful formless essence. That has helped me so much through the years, is to see the innocence of people's stuff. You know, when I worked in public housing, or when I work with victims of torture or anything, the things people have had to do is the best they could, you know. And it's that form, you know, the formless getting behind some dense energy or thought systems or behaviors, and then it gets in the way of other people, you know. So that force, so, you know, we come in and we've got this amazing energy, life force, that's your power, and then you get free will too. And that's a good thing. You know, because free will is such a gift. You know, it's where we're placing our attention, what we want to get our energy behind. And so I like to think about it, you know, like you have the power that gets behind a machine, and then you choose the cycle. Do you remember old-fashioned wash machines? Many of you. I was looking at dials, you know, online, and today they're all kind of nice. You know, they're like gentle or longer soak, you know, things like that. Before it used to be agitate. They still have spin, you know. They still have spin, you know, but they don't have agitate. But they have gentle and delicate, you know, and you think, now, what one am I on? You know? What one am I on? Because the energy, the force, the power is going to get behind whatever one you choose. And so we're so innocently sometimes spinning. And then I saw there was ones that were short cycle. It's like, that's one I would like now, especially if I'm on agitation. You know, is have the short one, you know, or the delicate, or the be gentle, you know. And so I just think, you know, the power that lives beyond us and within us and moving through us is neutral. You know, it will join with whatever we want to put out there. It will get behind. So like in law of attraction, you know, it's always saying that what you think about, you bring about. And then the vibration and frequency that you're at, the universe, you know, responds to. So it doesn't really care if I'm making a mess or if I'm making something great. It doesn't have that, you know, judgment. It's just useful because we came in really to create. And so creation, I mean, sometimes I look at some people who have created very big messes in their life, and I can just totally appreciate how much power they're accessing. Seriously. When I worked on psych units and somebody's life was such a mess or something, I'd be like, I want to work with that one. And everybody would be like, fine, Cindi, you take them. But it was, to me, is like they were harnessing energy in a way, just not knowing how to line up their thoughts with what they really wanted it to get behind. You know? So they go from creating a big mess to creating a nicer life. You know? It's so simple that we don't like it. We like things a little more profound. I don't know if I've shown this to you guys before, but it is one of my favorite ones. It's I Am Gana, and he still is an educator. But in the simplest terms of in our life, you know, he's saying, I'm a decisive element in the classroom. It's my personal approach that creates the climate and my daily mood that makes the weather. As a teacher, I possess the tremendous power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal. In all situations, it's my response that decides whether a crisis will be escalated or de-escalated, the child humanized or dehumanized. Powerful, isn't it? Just everyday stuff. And you're that way as a parent or as a partner or everything. You know, that's how we're doing life. So we need to choose. What kind of climate do we want to create? And it's so easy here, right? But then out there in the world, we have a belief that it's different. But it's the same principle without the interference of your mind saying that you can or can't do this, or they won't get this. So if we really just took the way we are in here, and many of you do, and is just living this same feeling that we go out into the world in as we do here, then we are attractors, and we're living in a magnetic world too. That the frequency that you're putting out is always attracting, and it isn't just like attracting what you're trying to get with your intentions, but it's attracting to other people, just the feeling you're in sometimes. People gravitating to you like moths to light. And sometimes more than you want. When I used to sometimes go downtown or do something on a bus, I'd always get the drooler. Or the person who wanted to tell me some of their crazy. Because I was open, And then I had to learn that maybe not all the time do I want to be open. So, Guy Finley says, the greatest power that we have is to decide how to use our power, really. How do we want to give our power or energy to things? So there's so many opportunities that one of the best things I've ever learned is that I don't have to engage just because somebody else does. That's just so nice, isn't it? That I can, I think I've shared this with you before, but when somebody's really doing something and going crazy, and my family, we say, oh. That's it. So we're not hopping into the story with them, so that we're not validating a reality that might be skewed or a little off at that moment, so we'll just listen in that kind of a way. And that was a big step for me to start moving away from engaging or feeling like I had to do something all the time. That to use my energy well, to not speak unless somebody has ears on. To sometimes allow somebody some time to decompress, but not feel like I have to fix them because I truly know that they have that beautiful energy, and my job is just helping them understand how we operate. Because if somebody knows how they operate, then they can change things. If you think the reality is coming from the outside in, it's so hard to change. It's too big. So it's that part of just, and also not letting somebody else get to determine the climate I'm in. And not getting too busy about reporting what the climate is. Like Martin Luther King, he turned the dial to determine the temperature he wanted things to be at. When many other people were just talking about how awful it felt, how hot or cold it is. So that's kind of a habit within our culture, is to get engaged in stuff. And just because it's out there doesn't mean I have to lend my energy to it. So, like I was saying, some of the insights that have been helpful to me is really understanding that I'm a creator. We're creating. It isn't happening to us. Is that on some level, and that's not to mean like I'm to blame for everything that happens. It's not that. But it's that part is if I step into my power, then regardless of how circumstances are, I get to decide how I want to create it. And that's teaching to the choir here. But that's huge, because so many people in the world are innocently walking around as victims, not knowing. And then it's that part of like, once I know that, then it's really good to just be paying attention to how I am operating. And being able to go like, whoa, there's a thought for you. Oh, another one just like it. And to just be witnessing that experience and then start to deliberately create backing off of like what I'm not liking, taking my energy back in, and that doesn't mean protective mode, but it means just like instead of all your filaments going out, running to everything, is you start to weave them back in. If you're not liking your experience, weave those filaments back in, regroup, and then start to set those intentions again out there, or your connections to people. I mean, just the simplicity of when we're kids and people say you need a nap. Right? And then we fought that, right? Yeah, that's that resistance deal that we get going on. So it's like, no, just regroup. Think about emptying the bowl. And in that regrouping, your energy, you ask it to come back. You ask to be in alignment of it. You ask to feel the breath of the universe, to feel your life's purpose coming in, to feel your direction, to look out and maybe even in the magnetics and in the ideas of working with energy, is to maybe even think about pulling in your future to you. And pulling in the version that pleases you. We want to be specific, because if we sometimes don't pull in what we're looking for, we're just leaving it up for grabs, then it's kind of like, well, am I in, I don't want to be too intentional where I limit what I think could come in, but I just might want to put a few qualifiers. Like I want to pull in my future. I want to pull in something that's useful to the people I serve. I want to pull in a higher level of health or vibration than I currently am in. But I don't want it to knock me off my grounding. See, that's just specific enough. But then you let the universe and your higher self conspire into bringing in the things that are going to surprise you. It's a mystical world if we let it. So when we're looking at power and force, I kind of look at a lot of stuff in this way. I look at it in terms of just states of mind or moods or whatever you want to call it. But when I am in a lower place, and if that scale was like a line of how much static or interference I have going on, either from my head or just my life being too busy or whatever, then I know I might be in that place at the bottom where I'm going to be forcing things or trying to control things, And so that's where we see people who want to try to say how something has to be, because they might be kind of needing that form more to feel secure. So it's an outside-in reality, huh? And then when you move up a little bit and you're feeling less, interference in your life and your mind is clearer or your feeling feels nicer, then you have a place of influence and support. So it's not just about me anymore and what I need, but it's like, wow, I'm going to move this energy because in my support of other people, I get something too. And in that support, it's like I'm a lot more open. I can release density too more when I see like the innocence of people and I have compassion and I can be supportive. Actually, there's research that says that people get over post-traumatic stress events more when they can operate from a place of compassion. When they understand, because then they're not like gripping it so much, they're assisting. And then when we go up a little higher, then it's like, then we're attracting, huh? And we're creating. And that's the beauty, that's the place we want to be. I think I'll go to that later. So if you would, you want to do a little meditation, we'll kind of empty your bowls. See about lining back up with the beautiful feeling. Could I have a little bit of music? All right, so if you would, just try to Get comfortable in your chair. And just noticing how your seat feels on the chair. Do you feel relaxed as you're back in a comfortable position? Imagine just kind of releasing any tension in your shoulders. Just allowing for your system to just be here right now. And just imagine that your body is just a container. It's like the bowl. And that in order for you to even be here, you got hooked up to some divine light. Just breathe easy. See if you can breathe the breath into your belly and not just your chest. And now if you would imagine gold and white light pouring into your system from your head, from the worlds above, just an unlimited stream. And imagine if there's any stones up in your head that are blocking the flow of that light. Just allow your system to just take them out gently and place them outside in your field to be released. The density of the situation or the emotion, the memory, doesn't matter. That light like dematerialize that stone. And knowing that the energy and the memories and the mind does not just rest with your head. See if you can scan your body. Just stop wherever there might be an area and ask your higher self and your awareness to take that stone, that density that might not be a vibrational match anymore for where you are and where you're going, to again just place it outside your body, into your energy field. Be scanning across your shoulder blades in the back. Attention to your chest and your heart space. Taking the boulders off your chest, the things that have caused you a heavy heart, or even the pebbles that cause irritation or distrust. And taking the energy down through your belly and your diaphragm, the seat of your will, and your security and insecurity. And just imagine that the stones, the weight, just move off of you and your breath feels bigger and more expanded. And the light is coming down through your head, through your throat and your chest, now into your belly. And sliding down your legs. As the light comes in, the density of the stones are not congruent enough to stay. And your body is feeling the memory of the vibration of who you are before the holding and before the experiences. Is going down through your legs now, and your ankles, down your feet, and connecting to the earth and Pachamama. And now with your intent and that light, just gently expand your field, pushing it out about 2 or 3 feet. And imagining that the stones are bumping up to the edge of your field's membrane. And you reduce the membrane of your field and just let the stones leave. It's just dissipating. Discharging the energy of those stones, dissolving and returning the density to a place where it's supported, but not in your field. And now building the membrane of your field, allowing it and asking it to be as thick as it needs to be when you're out in the world. And adding a layer of what I call the attractor field. That you have a field around your body that is magnetic, interfacing with all in life, and that you place in that attractor field 2 words that might describe what you're looking for. And we ask that your system and the energy, the highest frequency that your system can live with comfortably, activate that attractor field. And that you see it as if it's done. You imagine the feeling of it, the joy or the relief. You just experience the vibration of the change, even though you haven't experienced it yet. Then calling upon all the energies that you believe in that support you to conspire and make it so. See yourself burning brightly, plenty to offer the field, to offer the people around you, other people on the planet, your family, and Lake Harriet. Now call your system back into your body. Move around in your seat. Gently bring yourself back and open your eyes in this new place of alignment. Thank you. All right, so in the spirit of Lake Harriet, we believe the circle is a strong, powerful thing, collecting all of our energy so that we can have a more powerful boost to our intentions. But I ask that mostly is that you honor how you carry power and that you share it in the way that it comes through you. That there's no need to be like anybody else. It's to be you. And to take that flow and allow it to express itself out into the world. That would be my hope. And that all people in the world also begin to uncover their light so that we can live with a little bit more harmony right now. So let's ask that the intention get behind all people and all planets. And then any other intentions people have, feel free to shout them out loud, and then we'll get behind it and we'll send it up through the dome. All right. Anything?
Gratitude. 70 degrees.
Yeah.
Peace of heart. Connection. Unity.
Love.
Authenticity.
Freedom. Laughter.
Joy. Clarity.
Peace.
Contentment. Play. Courage. Joy. Compassion. Respect.
All right. Wonderful. Sorry? What was that one? There was one last one. I didn't hear that. Wisdom. Wonderful. All right. So what we'll do is we'll take the energy, we'll go down with our hands, and then we're going to toss it, our intention behind all those intentions and those that were made privately, and we're going to throw it up into the dome. Whoosh! Enjoy your day.
Thank you
Love you,
so
Cindi.
much.
That was beautiful.